to One Extraordinary Marriage. You're here tonight with Elisa DiLorenzo.
And Tony DiLorenzo.
And we're here to talk to you about life, love, and the pursuit of intimacy in your marriage.
Thank you, Elisa.
Thought he had somewhere to go with that. Apparently not. So a little bit about us. Some of you are just tuning into us for the first time, and actually we're tuning into us for the first time. So we'd like to fill you in a little bit about who we are and where we've been and why we're on the air.
That's right. First things first, Elisa and I have been married 13 years. We have 2 adorable kids.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yes. And tonight what we really want to be talking about is why we have felt led to talk about marriage.
So a little bit of background. In August of 2008, Tony and I were preparing to lead a small group in our church here in San Diego on intimacy. We were actually going to be using the book Intimacy Ignited. And about a month before that study started, we were preparing some material and came across a clip online of 2 couples who had attempted, one to be intimate for 365 nights and the other for 101 nights. And I could not believe these women actually, one gave it to her husband as a birthday present for his 40th birthday, and the other one just said yes to 101 nights. And I thought, these women are nuts.
And I was jumping up and down for joy to tell everybody. Interesting to watch this online and just sort of see these couples and what they had done was very interesting in my mind.
Yeah, for me, not so much. And so I just turned off the computer thinking that was the end of it until the fateful question, as we joke about.
Yes, that evening, while Elisa and I were getting ready for bed and I was reading a book, I did pop the question to Elisa and asked her if she'd be willing for us to make love for 60 days straight. So 8 weeks, which was the length of the study we were doing.
And my immediate response, and women, you won't be surprised here, at least most of you, I just shot him down. No, not going to happen. Not going to do it. Game over. Good night. I'm going to bed.
And that's what I did.
So the only problem was that I was kind of intrigued. I thought, well, at that point in time, we'd been married, almost 11 years?
We'd been married. Yeah, we were going to come up on our 11th.
We were coming up on our 11th anniversary. And I was like, well, what if I said yes? What if we did this? Could I do this? What about the kids? And what about laundry? And how are we going to work out all these logistics? And thought about it, prayed about it, and actually came back to him the next day and said, let's do it. Let's try this.
And all honesty, I was floored. I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. I was actually a bit scared. And I actually told Elisa I needed to think about this because even though I'd thrown it out there to her the night before, which sometimes I do with Elisa, I like to just throw things out at her and see if she bites. Maybe some of you can relate with that. And, this was one of those things that I didn't think she was going to bite. And so when she did come back to me and said she wanted to actually go through with having 60 nights, possibly 60 nights of intimacy, physical intimacy, I was a bit shocked and taken aback, really.
And so now here I am stunned because I think I've just given him the biggest gift in the world. I'm saying, yes, honey, I'll have sex with you for the next 60 days. And he says, I have to think about it. And I don't know too many guys that have to think about it when their wives say, yes, let's do it.
Well, here's one of my fears. When Elisa said yes, was would I be able to perform every day for 60 days? And as a guy, our ego is all built into being able to perform sexually with our spouses and being on each time. So my thinking at that point in time was, am I going to be able to do this and not let Elisa down?
And I was still just kind of intrigued with the whole idea. However, we had a lot to talk about. Fortunately, we had a few weeks before this was going to all come to fruition, come to start. And so we had to work out some of the logistics. Were there any excused absences, so to speak? Were there times when it was mutually agreed we wouldn't be intimate with each other? And, what about things like the kids' schedules? Our children are young. We don't always get the luxury of them being off somewhere else and knowing that they're not going to be home for a few hours.
Right.
What about all the day-to-day stuff? Tony owns his own business and I do too. And, juggling all of the stuff that comes with that. And so we had to sit down and really work out some of these, details to be on the same page. It was a rather big undertaking. We were your average couple, a couple times a month. And usually when I was the one saying, sure, let's do it.
And so when we did finally decide how this was all going to work out, what we did decide, and so for all of you out there thinking, oh my gosh, they went for it for 60 days straight, and wow, I couldn't do this. Well, really, we had a couple of things that we laid out real quick so that the two of us knew where we stood. One was illness. If either of us was sick, that was a day off. I mean, we just weren't going to go gun ho and take.
Honestly, who wants to? When you're feeling like crap, the last thing you want to do is... I know Tony's trying to figure out the nice way to say this, but really,
you just don't want to.
When you're sick, the last thing you want to do is think about getting intimate with your spouse.
Exactly. So that was one. Number two was if there were any trips that took us out of the area. I'm a huge road cyclist, and I did have one trip planned at the end of September that I knew I was going to be gone for a couple of nights. So we had to do trips. And I think the third and last was when Elisa was on her period. Mm-hmm. And we took some time off for that. We just both didn't feel that was necessary. Some of you may choose to...
it's a matter of personal preference. We'll just leave it at that.
Exactly. So...
September 1st.
It hits us, and it's the start of our 60 days. We've committed to ourselves. There's no more excuses at this point. We cannot go back unless those three topics, those three areas that we've decided we are unable to make love that night. And you know what? It got off to a pretty good start. Why don't you tell them what you did, Elise?
Well, I actually got excited about having sex with my husband.
Woohoo! I know all of you guys are saying the same thing.
It started to become one of those things that I was looking forward to again. And not that it was bad before or that...
I don't think it was bad. No, it wasn't bad before.
No, it's never been bad. It was just I never had the
There
anticipation.
were times when we had lulls.
Yes. Lulls meaning long stretches where it was very distant.
Right. You know what?
Few and far between.
We were going through the motions.
Yes.
For many years, I would say we were going through the motions.
Yeah, we'd have some really...
we'd have sex a lot when we were trying to conceive our kids. I'll tell you, guys, if you're out there and you have kids, you can relate to this. Because this is the only time when...
Outside the honeymoon phase.
When your spouse is on top of you. Because she knows exactly when she is ovulating, and then she has read all these books, and you have to do it every other day, sort of a deal. Other than that, we had, other than that time twice in our marriage, there had been the honeymoon stage, some other little stages. But mind you, we'd been married for 11 years, so there were many lulls in there.
There are a lot of nights in 11 years of marriage.
This is true. So coming up to September 1st, though, I think there's excitement on both of our parts, knowing that we were going to make love 60 days, but there was no excuses. We had to come to the table, or come to the bed, I would say.
Yeah, good choice of words.
And really become intimate with one another.
Well, and ladies, I'm sure you can relate to this and the fact, Tony said, no more excuses for the next 60 days. And that was really more for me. Many of you women, and I've heard from some of you, you kind of control the intimacy in your marriage in terms of, if you're tired, probably not going to happen. If the kids are sick, if he has done something to make you mad that night, then you just roll over, or maybe you take a little extra time in bed, or you say, honey, I've got a headache, I don't feel well, or whatever excuse you want to use to control the situation.
Yeah. And we had a really good comment on our blog, and you can check that out at www.oneextraordinarymarriage.com and go to our blog under 40 days to a mind-blowing marriage. We had a great comment from a lady about this, and you know what, it's true. Lisa and I actually sat down after this comment was left and discussed that, and how that was something that happened a lot in our marriage as well.
Mm-hmm. And so it was a total change of mindset for me, where I had to say, you know what, I don't have a choice. I can't say the kids were bugging me today. I don't want to have, I don't want to be intimate with you. It was, okay, well, I committed to this. We're doing it. It's Monday. Doesn't matter. It's Tuesday. I've got a load of laundry to do. You know what? We've got to get it in before midnight.
And on vice versa, there were days when I was starting to feel tired, and I was going, man, I don't want to do it today. I just want to go to sleep. I don't want to have to expend the energy to talk to Elisa. I don't want to have to be physical with her. I don't want to do all that. But again, we had committed to each other for the 60 days to being physically intimate as well as emotionally and intellectually. It wasn't one of these things where you can just hop in bed and boom, you make love and it's over and done. There were many nights when we would sit there and we would really talk. And we still do that to this day, a year and a half later, where we do talk and communicate. On my part, I learned through these 60 days to really listen to Elisa and hear her instead of just talking to her and sort of going, let's go, let's make love.
That's because I have to use up all my words before we can get intimate.
Right. But let's go back to that first night, because it was sort of exciting, because I think during the years together, we got into a lull. Our lull was very routine. And when I say lull, our lovemaking sessions became very routine. It was hey, I'm in bed. Elisa comes into bed. She would roll towards me. That to me meant she was ready to start a possible lovemaking session, and we would do our same routine, and before you know it, boom, bing, bang, we're done, and you go to bed.
Which, after 11 years, it was working. Or so we thought.
It was working, but there was definitely more that we were searching for in our marriage.
Right.
In and out of the bedroom.
And that's one of the benefits that came about as far as this whole time together. We really got past the routine. We got past the predictability of what lovemaking was in our relationship, and started to find the excitement to really rekindle the romance and the communication. Because honestly, you can't be intimate with anyone. Not everyone. You definitely can't be intimate with everyone.
Stay intimate with your spouse, please.
You can't be intimate with someone on a daily basis and have problems communicating, have problems in your marriage, and be able to reconcile those two things. You have to be able to work through those issues. And so when Tony talks about our communication, and we were getting past the surface stuff, so often it's, hey, the kids have got this after school and I've got to do this, or somebody was screaming and I can't talk to you right now. And now it was more like, hey, what's going on with you today? You sounded really excited on the phone. What did something happen with a client, or, did you land an account, or whatever it was, we started getting past the surface stuff.
Most definitely. We did get past that surface stuff.
So what did you want to say about the first night?
Well,
I went off on a tangent.
Since Lisa goes off on her tangent. No, here was the coolest thing. So it's the first night, and we weren't really sure, am I going to initiate? Is Elisa going to initiate? How's this going to happen? And so we got the kids to bed, and it was really cool because I came out, and the whole house was dark, except I noticed sort of a twinkle coming from our living room, of all places. And Elisa had set up a nice little blanket on our floor, and there were candles laid out. You don't remember the candles?
I don't, but I'll take your word for it, because it sounds like I did a good job on the romance department. So keep talking.
I'm pretty sure there were candles out because I remember the flickering. But
okay, well, then I think you're probably right.
Okay. And there were candles out. And you know what? For the first time in
a long time.
Yeah. I mean, other than, hey, we're going to go out on our anniversary, or we got somebody watching the kids and we're getting a hotel in downtown, or we went on our 10th anniversary, went up to Big Bear to a great, great place called the Knickerbocker in a bed and breakfast. And we had a beautiful room. But other than that, in our own house, and yes, this is a little sketchy because you got two kids and you're hoping that they don't wake up, because that would be really weird. Luckily, we had just put them down, so we knew they were going to sleep. At least we hoped they were going to sleep.
Before midnight, our kids are usually good. About staying asleep. It's after midnight, it's questionable, but that's a whole nother podcast.
And at this point in time, we do just lock the door if that happens. But anyways, it was just one of those times as a guy, as a husband, to walk out and see that my wife had actually set this all up, this really cool romantic setting for us to make love for this first night. And you know what? It left such an impression. It was really cool. We really got to really connect that first night. And I think it was what really set us off and allowed us to do what we did. Now, the whole 60 days wasn't pretty in the sense of we had a lot of rough points and a lot of high points, but there are a lot of low points too that we're going to discuss here as well. But I think we should hit some of the high points. What were some of your high points, Elisa?
I think, well, partly, Tony is self-employed, so we have a lot of flexibility.
Yes.
In scheduling.
Love self-employment. Love it. And
so it was very nice because, if he had time during the day and could run home, quickies counted. So we were able to, in the middle of the day when the kids were at school, or, there were a couple of times the kids were doing overnights at friends' houses. And so we were able to not be limited by our regular routine schedules. And so doing that type of stuff, being able to really communicate again. And I think, long lasting, that has been one of the biggest surprises and benefits that I have seen for our marriage, is that the communication has dramatically changed.
Yeah, most definitely. One thing that Elisa said that I think everybody should take note on is making the time somewhere. And it doesn't always have to be at night. So guys, if you live, or I should say if you work by home and your spouse is a homemaker, she works out of the house, surprise her one day, text her, find out where she is. And if you know she's going to be around for lunchtime, just text her and tell her you're going to go grab some Taco Bell and bring it home, with the intention that you've started laying the groundwork with some texts throughout the morning. Change it up, folks. It really does help. And Elisa and I can really, we really have gone through this, because even though the 60 days was different, there came times within those 60 days where things began to become routine too. And that first stretch from that first night we ended up going 9 days straight, which was, in my mind, it is tough. And I'm going to tell all you guys out there, it's tough. And there were some times in there where it was just starting to get, okay, it's getting routine, it's going routine. On that 10th day, I was done. Physically, mentally, I was done.
Ladies, surprisingly enough, guys can get too much of a good thing. I was a little bit surprised. I thought they were kind of, sort of like the Energizer Bunny. They just keep going and going and going. But the reality was we did take a break on day 10, and it was really due to fatigue.
Yeah, it was.
And we didn't want this time to become just another thing on our to-do list. Did the laundry, folded the clothes, washed the dishes, hopped into bed with Tony. Good. I'm good for the day. I can go to bed. So it was a struggle at times for us to realize that. And I think for many of us out there, or many of you out there who are looking at your love life and going, man, it is routine, really start sitting down and thinking about it. And thinking of ways that you can jazz it up, spice it up. Because one thing we did learn is during those 60 days was you do hit the routines. And man, for us for 60 days, it's magnified. When you're only making love maybe once a week, you don't recognize it as much. But when you're doing it 60 days straight, it's magnified, and you catch yourself going, I got to change. I got to make something happen here. So when we would get into these, I think for myself, what I ended up doing and starting is we started lighting candles in the bedroom. Elisa loves vanilla, so I have learned that over that period of time that she loves the smell of vanilla. So we got some vanilla candles. We did different times of the day. Mm-hmm. We went into different rooms of the house. And granted, we don't have a large house, but you can get creative with whatever space you have, and we actually took the time to.
We have 1,100 square feet, folks. We don't have a big place. We got 1,100 square feet.
But within that space, you can do quite a bit. And if you're willing to put forth the effort, the rewards are going to be amazing for you and your spouse.
Right.
But Tony's alluded to some of our lower times during the 60 days, and I want to make sure that we do talk about that a little bit. The first month, I think we went
23 days out of 30 days.
Right. And at the end of that, halftime, I got my period, and I think we both did the happy dance.
We did the happy dance. Yes, we did.
But that first night that I had my period, I was kind of bummed. I'd gotten so used to
and I was excited because I was ready for the break.
Ready for the break, yes, the energy, the physicality of it, but I also missed that connection with him. And so that was very eye-opening to me that we had come so far in, 3 weeks. So I've got my period, and then the kids get sick. One, then the other. So we're dealing with sick kids. And when our kids get sick, they don't sleep.
So we didn't sleep.
Well, I didn't
sleep.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes Tony sleeps through the kids not
and then
sleeping.
I got sick. I got the flu.
Then Tony got the same viral bug the kids had, and he shook it, or so we thought, because at the end of that week, he ended up in the urgent care with a viral migraine. First migraine he's ever had. Thought he was dying.
Yeah, and so this was a tough time for us during this period, especially for me, because I was, having taken the time off at the end of September. We had gone a couple of days or more in beginning of October, and then we got hit with all these sicknesses. It's, in my mind, I was pretty much done.
Well, and I think I was too, because, it really, as a wife and a mother, when all of that, you maintain a certain energy level for your day-to-day, what you've got going on. And then all of a sudden, when you throw in a household where everybody is sick, you get drained yourself. I mean, I was tired of taking care of everybody, and I just kind of wanted to, curl up in my bed and read a book and just shut the door and basically say, you guys go fend for yourselves. I'm done. I'm done. And yet we knew that we still had another month.
To go.
Another month to go in this commitment that we'd made to each other. And Tony didn't mention this, but it wasn't just a commitment that we'd made to ourselves. We had actually announced to our small group that we were doing this. They were accountability partners for us.
They were.
And so every week we'd go to group and, they weren't getting the details, but they wanted to know how things were going. And so we couldn't quit even if we'd wanted to, because there wasn't a good reason to. The struggle itself wasn't a valid enough reason to quit. And so, what we had to do was work through it. And so, I think it was October 9th was the first day that everybody was healthy enough to actually go to bed at a decent hour, the 7th or the 9th, something like that. And so Tony's ready to climb back up into the saddle. And I remember laying there in bed thinking, no way, no how.
Really?
I don't have it in me.
Really?
Really.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You haven't read my journal.
I did read your journal. I just don't remember. Oh, maybe I do.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
And so he's making the moves and I'm not feeling it. And I've done, I
remember what we said earlier. No more excuses was one of our deal. No more excuses.
Right. So I've got no way out. And yet there's nothing happening for me. I am not feeling the love. And so I just started praying. I literally am laying there in bed with a husband who's trying to make the move, saying, God, I need your help. I need to feel romantic towards my husband. I need to be accepting of his advances. And I'm not feeling any of that. I need your help. I need your intervention here. And, sometimes God answers prayers very quickly. And this was one of those nights. Because Tony's journal is actually very telling from this night, because he was all excited. He thought it was a great night.
Yeah, that's right. I do. I remember that, just feeling that we had really connected on that night after all the things that we had gone through in the week prior, that this was really a sort of a redemption of where we had left off. And here we were picking it back up, and we were going to really finish this with a gusto. Like I was really ready just to finish this thing off and really celebrate this time together. So
never underestimate the power of divine intervention in your bedroom.
Right. And it was really weird, though, when Elisa told me afterwards, because we've heard it many a times before in service, compartmentalizing God. And you know what? This is one of those areas that, in all honesty, I have. God doesn't necessarily come to my mind when I'm laying next to my wife about to make love to her. And so when Elisa mentioned this to me, it was really off my rocker a little bit. I was a little off. I was like, what are you talking about? You're praying to God. I can't think of anything else. I mean, the only thing I can think of is making love to you. So it was sort of, I was taken aback. For sure, I was taken aback on it.
Yeah, he kind of gave me the, what are you doing look.
Well, how do you even do that, really? I mean, as a guy, there's so much that's going on in your mind. I can't even think of how I'm going to pray to God while I'm trying to make love to my wife.
It's the whole multitasking thing.
Yeah, I can't do it when I'm making love to my wife. So, but that was a big opening in our marriage that has allowed us to dig deeper into our physical intimacy. You agree?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, because I pray a lot now in our bedroom.
Yeah. and I have too. Usually before, not during. I can't.
Again, he can't do the two things at one time.
I can't multitask.
But he's even said, to me before, or, since then, that if he senses that I'm not in the mood, he'll start praying for me to get there. And, And we talk. And there have been many a nights since then where, we have made advances during the day and then get there at night and realize that, putting the kids to bed, doing dinner, doing the laundry,
doing showers, everything else that goes with being parents, husband and wife, we're just drained. And so we do come to those points sometimes, even after prayer, that we just go, you know what? We're better off just waiting for tomorrow evening or the next evening where we feel better.
Right.
You know? So
he stares at me like deer in the headlights. So we prayed and we made it through the last 3 weeks of this experiment, as some call it, adventure, this quest. Makes it sound like a knight in shining armor.
Yeah, I am your knight in shining armor.
You are my knight in shining
That's
armor.
right.
No disagreement there.
Come on now.
No disagreement. In fact, I think my parents would probably even agree with you after all these years.
I know.
You know.
They never commented on our blog.
I'm sure they will after they hear the podcast.
Yeah, Lou and Beth, Mom and Dad, when you hear our podcast, we need you to comment on our blog. I was really waiting for something there, at least a little, hey guys, I love you for doing this. So just giving a little shout out to you guys. Love you guys.
Props to my parents. Who would have ever thought? But going back to our story, it was an amazing time, an amazing journey. Definitely a roller coaster, lots of highs and lows. But I think we definitely our marriage emerged stronger.
Oh gosh.
Without a doubt. And
without a doubt. This season of change that we took on has propelled us to where we are today. And we're not looking back. We're not looking back to the ho-hum, well, this is life and this is my spouse and this is what I got to deal with. No, we look at each other and go, you are my spouse. You are lovely. You are extraordinary to me. And we can do whatever we choose to do in our marriage.
And so we encourage all of you listening to consider making a lifestyle change, to be thinking about how you want to see intimacy grow in your marriage. And we want you to know that we appreciate you tuning in and listening to us here on One Extraordinary Marriage as we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of intimacy. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye, you guys. Thanks.